Someone once asked you for something small, and you said yes. But what if that tiny yes was the beginning of a trap? A trap designed to slowly override your boundaries, not with pressure, not with threats, but with harmless requests that don't feel dangerous. This is how manipulators get in. They never start big. They start microscopic. A favor, a tiny commitment, something you barely notice, something that feels polite to accept, something you don't want to say no to. And that's exactly why it works. Your first yes becomes permission. Permission they fully intend to exploit. You think you're being kind. They think you're being tested. Because small requests aren't random. They're probes, they're boundary scans, they're psychological entry points. And if you say yes once, they know they can push further. The foot in the door technique is simple. Get agreement on something tiny, then escalate to something bigger, then bigger again, until the final request is something you never would have accepted at the start. But now, you feel compelled. You feel obligated. You feel too far in to pull back. That's the trap. And most people don't see it until it's too late. It starts with convenience. Hey, can you help me with something quick? You say yes. They smile. But the smile isn't gratitude. It's confirmation. Confirmation that you're compliant, that you're agreeable, that you don't want conflict. Manipulators love people who avoid conflict because those people are easiest to pressure. And the first small request is just the hook. Then comes the second, slightly bigger, slightly more intrusive, slightly more demanding, but still small enough to seem harmless. And you think, well, I said yes before. That's the psychology. You feel the need to stay consistent. Humans hate breaking patterns. Manipulators exploit that. They let you create the pattern, and then they weaponize it. Soon, you're doing things you never planned to do, going places you didn't want to go, sacrificing time you didn't have, agreeing to things that feel uncomfortable, but you keep saying yes. Because each request feels connected to the last, and the pressure builds slowly. You don't see the trap, you feel the trap. And manipulators count on that confusion. They overwhelm you in tiny pieces. Never enough to trigger alarm, but enough to shift control, and you only notice it when it's too late. When the requests become expectations, when your no starts feeling dangerous, when you worry saying no will make them angry. That's when you know control has shifted, because a healthy person can handle a no. A manipulator cannot. They rely on your guilt, your politeness, your empathy. They study it, they use it, they twist it, and they escalate slowly. But here's the truth they never want you to know. Small requests are rarely small. They're psychological positioning moves. They reveal whether you're easy to influence, whether you fear rejection, whether you people please, whether you avoid conflict, whether you can be guilt-tripped. And once they know that, they start shaping your behavior, one small step at a time. They ask for a ride, then they ask for money, then they ask for your time, then they ask for your emotional labor. Eventually, they ask for things that drain you, things that break you down, things that benefit only them. That's the end game, a pattern of compliance, built from tiny steps. Steps you barely noticed, steps you thought were kindness. But kindness without boundaries becomes a weapon, and manipulators know how to use it. So here's how you detect the trap early. Ask yourself one simple question. Does this request feel small, or does it feel strategic? Your body knows the difference. Watch for the micro-hesitation, that tiny moment of discomfort, that slight feeling of being used. That's your warning. That's the signal. Another red flag is urgency. Manipulators rush small requests. It'll only take a second. Come on, it's nothing. Don't make this a big deal. They minimize the request, but magnify the pressure. Healthy people don't do that. Healthy people respect boundaries. Manipulators reinforce obedience. They reward your yes. They punish your no. The shift is subtle, but undeniable. As their requests grow, so does their entitlement. You start feeling guilty for setting boundaries. You start fearing their reaction. That fear is manufactured. They built it slowly, step by step. That's the foot in the door technique in action. But here's what they never expect. Awareness destroys the trap. When you see the pattern, you break the pattern. You stop agreeing automatically. You pause. You evaluate. You ask yourself, do I even want this? And manipulators hate that question because it puts the power back in your hands. The next time someone asks you for something tiny, look past the request, look at their reaction to your hesitation. That reaction reveals everything. If they get irritated, red flag. If they push harder, red flag. If they guilt trip you, red flag. If they question your character, massive red flag. People with good intentions don't pressure. Manipulators do. And pressure always shows the truth. Another way to spot this tactic is consistency. If the requests keep coming, if they increase slowly, if each one is slightly bigger, you're being conditioned. Conditioning is not accidental. It's deliberate psychological design. That's how they build control. They don't want one favor. They want a pattern of favors. Because patterns become habits, and habits become obedience. But you have a way out, a single powerful defense, boundary disruption. This means breaking the pattern intentionally. Not with anger, not with excuses, but with a neutral no. I'm not available for that. I can't help you with this. That doesn't work for me. No explanation, no apology, no guilt. Manipulators hate neutrality because they can't hook into it. They can't twist it. They can't weaponize it. It stops their entire strategy. They push again. You stay neutral again. They test your resolve. You hold the line. After a few attempts, they see you're no longer compliant. And when compliance disappears, their interest does too. Because you're no longer useful. You're no longer controllable. You're no longer predictable. You've broken the pattern. And once the pattern is broken, their power collapses. But here's the deeper truth. You were never powerless. You were just unaware. Awareness is your shield. Boundaries are your armor. Consistency is your sword. You don't need to confront them aggressively. You don't need to explain your reasoning. You simply need to be intentional. Manipulators rely on autopilot behavior. When you switch to conscious behavior, their tactics fail. Their strategy unravels. Their influence dissolves. Because manipulation only works in the dark. And you're turning on the light. The foot in the door technique seems small, but it leads to massive control. Unless you see it early. Unless you interrupt it. Unless you refuse the pattern. Every manipulator knows this truth. Control doesn't start with a command. Control starts with a favor, a smile, a quick request, a tiny obligation. That's the camouflage. But now you see the disguise. You see the pattern. You see the psychology. And more importantly, you see your power in it. Because this entire tactic depends on one thing, your agreement. Without your yes, the strategy collapses, the control fails, the manipulator loses. So, here's your new rule. Never agree instantly. Pause, think, evaluate. Ask yourself, do I want this? Ask yourself, why are they asking me? Ask yourself, what's the pattern? If something feels off, trust that feeling. It's there for a reason. Your intuition is smarter than you think. It notices patterns before your mind does. It senses manipulation before it's obvious. Listen to it, protect it, follow it, because the best defense is awareness. And you have that now. No more automatic yes, no more guilt-based compliance, no more slow manipulation. You break the cycle today. You reclaim your boundaries. You reclaim your time. You reclaim your energy. You reclaim your self-respect. And manipulators notice that shift instantly. They can sense when their influence dies. They know when you're waking up. And they hate it. But they can't stop it because you're no longer an easy target. You're no longer predictable. You're no longer compliant. You're self-aware. And self-aware people are unmanipulable. Remember this. A small request is never just a small request. It's a test, a measurement, a prediction. And now you see the truth behind it. You see the strategy. You see the intention. And you see the escape route. No more small traps. No more silent pressure. No more incremental control. You know the game now. And when you know the game, you never lose again.